politicians and the media is not projecting the truth about immigration in this country. Immigrants deserve recognition and not scapegoating. So empowering is not about you first being powerful and having a power and then you're distributing it to others.
You don't have to be powerful yourself to empower others.
As human beings, it is literally, I think it is part of our nature to always look for more and look for better. That's why we're human beings. We're still being. We're still trying to be better.
If you've got a passion for something, you're never going to give up.
It is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. Today we're joined with David Jonathan, whose work revolves around working with different communities in Luton together in harmony. So in almost every setting all across the world, two things stand out the most. It is your ability to have great teamwork and your ability to empower and teach others. Today on the show, we have someone very important who works with both of those and brings more value to the community. Please welcome Johnny. Hi, Johnny.
Hi, thank you.
With me here is also Manor.
Hi.
And I'm Forever. Okay, Johnny, first of all, lovely to have you on here. Can you start by introducing yourself to our listeners and to everyone around?
Sure. So my name is David Jonathan, but I prefer to be called as Johnny. And I am a community organizer by profession, and I work with different voluntary and community organizations that probably will speak later.
Lovely. Nice.
Amazing. So I know that many people are surprised by your name, David Jonathan, especially considering your Indian background. So could you share the story behind your name?
Yes, I think because I was born into a Christian family, my parents wanted to give me a name from the Bible, but they chose an English language Bible. Hence, my name is David Jonathan, which sounds very anglicized rather than biblical. And because my name couldn't be pronounced in the part of India that I come from, where literacy was not as high as in other parts of India, and Christians were not as many as in some other parts of India. So I was kind of a rare species, seen as a rare species. But Johnny, because of the Bollywood influence, was more acceptable and more heard name. So from Jonathan, it came kind of Johnny, and I have ever since then stuck to it. And I always say, yes, my full name is David Jonathan, but I prefer to be called as Johnny. Secondly, also because it makes it feel a bit informal. Yeah, David Jonathan is very heavy, loaded name.
Fair enough. So how would you say your background has influenced your sense of identity and your sense of belonging as a person?
I think it starts with my name because I studied in a Hindu faith school. And in the part, as I have already said, that I come from, Christians and Muslims were very much in minority. So in a school of over 3,000 to 4,000 students, I was the only Christian, and I had a friend by name Abdul who was a Muslim. We were two only Christian and a Muslim student, a single person. So we used to get picked on for everything, but not him so much because Abdul is still a South Asian name. But David, sort of every time a roll call is there, by the time you come and announce, even teachers would question, who is this man? I want to look at where have you come from? And those questions, kind of assumptions that people made that I may not be from here or my parents are not from here. But I was as Indian as everybody else in the classroom was. So kind of my question and my wrestling with these issues of identity and belonging started from there. And secondly, when you declare that you are from a Christian background, and because your name is slightly anglicized, people would often assume you to be a traitor, you sided with the former colonial power, and you had something to do with the English Raj, British Raj, and therefore you are not one of us. And so it takes a lot for you to prove your loyalty that, no, I'm one of you, I speak the same language, eat the same food, I'm born and brought up, it's just my name, it's my faith. But that puts lots of questions and assumptions, and hence my journey of wrestling with these issues of identity and belonging have carried on till date. I must say that even in the UK, people often look at me when they hear my name in a program, David Jonathan, and then suddenly when I stand up, they kind of say it's a mismatch, because in the context of Luton, you would see a brown bearded face to be a Muslim rather than a Christian. So yeah, it continues.
Wow. That is interesting.
I can imagine it was quite difficult. I think here as well, when you live in parts of the UK that are like more white. If you have an Asian name, it's kind of the same. People really like to stick on to people that are different or have like different names. So I feel like that is something that our audience could probably relate to as well.
I think it's quite nice, especially that you haven't let that hinder you in any way, shape or form. And if anything, that's kind of like honed you into what you're doing now and working with the community, making sure that no one has to feel the way you must have felt before, which is quite nice. So you have mentioned that you've come from India to the United Kingdom. What made you choose the United Kingdom? Why Luton specifically? Because there's Birmingham, there's Liverpool, there's Manchester, there's Leeds, there's London, which is not even that far from us. Why did you choose Luton?
I think in the current context of debates on immigration, where assumptions again are made that everybody who has come from outside the UK has come through the boats or come through illegal means. I must say this, and I contest this by saying that I didn't choose to come to Luton. I was invited to come to Luton. I was invited once to Buckingham Palace, and when Prince William asked me, I said the same thing. I was invited, and he was taken by that word. And nobody has ever said this to me, that I was invited to the UK to come and work. But yes, it was through, because I'm a Christian and I was a member of my church of North India in India. And there's a global Christian organization called Council for World Mission, which was sponsoring a project in Luton with a Christian organization to develop work with different faith groups. This post was advertised in all its member churches, which are 32 member denomination churches across the continents of Africa, Asia. So I received that advert in my local church magazine. It's called Destiny. And I just sent an email, and then the communication started, and lo and behold, I was here.
Oh my God, that's wonderful. That's such a nice thing.
I had never heard of Luton before. I had never even thought of ever emigrating to anywhere.
A different country,
And particularly at that particular time, my family circumstances were very hard. My father was paralyzed, and I was the main carer for him. So there was no way I was thinking of leaving.
That would just
and yet this came, and my father was so pressurizing me that no, you must apply, and if you get it, you must go. Because he always wanted me to do something like this, work-wise.
Nice. He's so kind. Oh, bless him.
Thank you.
I want to say I'm surprised, but I'm not really that surprised that when you spoke to Prince William, he was taken aback by the word invited. Because for them, it's like, oh, you were invited. Who invited you? Like it's everyone. It's this weird thing of like they feel like they're so in demand that it would be weird for them to ask for someone of a different nationality, which is so wrong because the skills that we have, the talents that we have, they are no respecter of race. They're no respecter of religion. You just have that skill. You just have that talent. It doesn't matter where you're from. And obviously, because of who you are, your talent could be important anywhere. It could take you anywhere, which you are literally living proof of that, which is quite nice.
So you mentioned that you never thought about immigrating. So what influenced your decision to stay in the UK and establish your life here?
I think I must also admire what is good in this country as compared with my own country, where the work culture was such that young people were looked down a lot. Ageism is at its worst in my country. I was in early 30s when I arrived here 25 years ago. So I would still consider that I was not as young as you all are, but still youngish. But when I was trying to share my ideas, my thoughts, my aspirations to do some work, it was always dismissed that what would you know? You are a young boy, just stay, we know, we have been here in the field. But when I came here, I was, as I said, I was invited because I had shared my ideas over the phone through emails, and they thought, yes, this boy has got something to give back to the community, and it's worth probably inviting him. And when I was invited, I was given my 4-year work permit. And at the end of my 4-year work permit, they literally asked me to consider seriously of staying back, even though at that time my wife really wanted to go back. because we had a very young child, and she was struggling with her side of work side of things. She had much better prospects back in India, but I did not go because of this work culture, particularly because I think there was a sense of respect here in this country. And secondly, I think it's just the plurality of this part of the world, multiculturalism, that you meet so many different people, and it just opens the world to you in one place, whereas otherwise you have to travel, which is very expensive and you can't afford. But here you meet so many cultures that I would not have ever imagined. I just love that.
Yeah.
Just love that.
I feel like living in a place like England really just teaches you how to be tolerant of people, how to respect everyone, because you see people from different places. Literally, there's people from different walks of life, different faiths, and they all, like I said before, they all have something to offer, so you just respect them. I concur with you, like when you said ageism is a big problem, because in Nigeria, ageism is a massive problem. Ageism is the reason why I don't think I've ever lived to see, and I'm 18, I don't think I've ever lived to see a president that's older than 60 years old. Meanwhile, like more than 60% of the youth of Nigeria is youth, so it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. And they force, it's like where you're forced to respect people. Obviously, respect is reciprocal, but they don't give you that respect back because they think you're young, which is just really,
it's always
really wrong.
one way. Respect is one way.
Yes, which is so wrong.
Their elders, respect them.
Yeah. It's quite annoying.
Even when they're disrespectful, you respect them.
You just have to just keep your head down, just respect every single time. And it gets exhausting. And I think it's a really good way to put it, that even when they didn't see what you had to offer, another country, like a whole other country in a different continent, saw it and was like, oh, you, come here. We might have use for you. And it's things like this that make great nations, because they see this talent, they don't dismiss it, and they don't care where you're from, as long as you're coming here to build something here, as opposed to staying where you're from and where you're underappreciated, which I think is a brilliant thing.
Very well said, very well said. And many times third world countries accuse West of hijacking the best of the people. But then we also say, but you didn't value them.
Yes, that's why there's a massive brain drain in those countries, because you don't care about us. So obviously we're going to go where we're valued. That's just, it's just what it is.
Yeah. And I think that's specifically really good, like something that Attentive really helps with, because with the ageism and people not listening to young people, look at us as hosts, you know? And we've had such young hosts, like 17, 16, and other people like involved with the projects that Attentive do. So I think like Luton is a very good place for young people to get those opportunities.
One thing I will realize, that even in like the bigger cities, you can find traces of ageism in there. Like why you just joined the company? Why would you? Why are you getting a promotion? Like people start looking at you weird. But over here, especially in Attentive, we are valued as people based on what we know, not based on how many years we've got on this earth. Like, because there's a difference between, there's a 20-year-old who's lived here, who's experienced a decent amount of hardships, and then there's a 15-year-old who has, is dealing with a sick parent in a third world country, and who's the sole like primary carer, and you still have to go to school. And believe it or not, the 15-year-old probably has more life experience than the 20-year-old.
That's right.
So age doesn't really show much, and I think that's such a good thing that we're taught as youth ambassadors, and just going into the society, you have a different perspective. You don't see yourself as a young person necessarily. You see yourself as someone who has something to bring to the table every single time, which is a really good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question. Now we're going to talk about your professional role. So what is it that you currently do?
So I work with 3 different community initiatives. One is called Grassroots, the other is called Luton Council of Faiths, and the third is called Near Neighbours Program.
Ooh, you sound like a very busy person.
Yes, I tend to be very busy, yes.
That's crazy.
So could you tell us a bit about the roles and responsibilities you have for each
organization? Yes. So Grassroots is a Christian ecumenical program. By ecumenical, what I mean is that it's supported by different church denominations. And it is mandated to help churches to open up their doors, step out, and embrace the world rather than be fearful of that. And I'm saying that in the context of the post 9/11, when there was a lot of fear of Muslims, particularly, and also the rapid demographic changes that have happened in the UK. Understandably and rightfully, people are very nervous and anxious about those things. So I wouldn't dismiss all of those feelings as racism. They are very genuine human feelings that the things that I grew up familiar with, and they're all disappearing. Now the streets where I lived, I spent my childhood, totally different food cuisines are being sold there. And I don't get what I grew up with. So those are very so my role was to, when I was invited to help churches open up their doors and enable those friendships to be built so that those whom they are perceiving as enemies can be destroyed once they become their friends. And Luton Council of Faiths kind of grew out of that initiative of me working with grassroots as I was enabling churches and different faith communities to come together. That gave birth to Council of Faiths, and that has become an independent charity now. But we don't compete against one another. We complement and we work in partnership. And Near Neighbours program is more a latest addition by the government, actually, by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. They have initiated this program, and it is rolled out to 10 to 12 different areas across the UK, depending on how big the government grant is for a specific year. But it's been running for about now 15 years. And it is mainly to resource and equip the local community initiatives, small projects. So you don't have to be a registered, established charity to be able to apply for funding. It's kind of a seed grants it gives for projects that could be oriented towards social interaction or social action. So it could be kind of litter picking, street cleaning, or painting a mural, or doing some practical work like that. But people from diverse backgrounds coming together, that's their criteria. Hence it is called Near Neighbours program. So those are three different range of things that I do.
I think they're like 3 different branches of the same tree. It's best from the same vision, but it just has different
emphasis.
Different emphasis, and it's heading different ways, but they're all, if you trace it back to like their root values, like what they are at their core, they're very similar, which I think is quite nice. Okay, so at the start of the show, I mentioned 2 things that are very important. Partnership, that's being able to collaborate with people, and empowerment, which bringing people up, helping them get up. Across your work at the Luton Council of Faith, Near Neighbours, like across everything that you've done, the central themes, like I mentioned before, seem to be partnership and empowerment. So how do you interpret these principles in your practice and your work?
I think I often use the words of Martin Luther King, who said that before you finish your breakfast, you have depended on half the world. It is very important for us to realize that interconnectedness, that our survival is dependent on others. I'm also very much in tune with this African concept called Ubuntu, which simply states that I am because we are. So my individual identity is nothing unless it is rooted into the interconnectedness with the others around me. So bearing that in mind, I think as grassroots program, as the name itself suggests, and it has always said program, it has never sought to become a big organization or an institution. The trustees are very clear of their thinking and their vision that we want to remain small, we want to remain weak, we want to remain vulnerable. But then as a single water drop can be very weak and vulnerable. When it comes together with others, it can become a force of an ocean. So that is where the partnership comes, that because we are weak and vulnerable, we can never be independent. And therefore, by virtue of who we are, we have sought to become dependent on others. And hence, everything that we do, it is done in partnership with others. So say, for example, I've given you 3 names of the organizations that I work with. As a result of, so we want to bring communities, diverse communities together. We do it it in partnership with Luton Council of Faiths and several other projects. For example, a women's project when we wanted to do, we created a co-op group run by a Muslim and a Hindu and a Christian woman. And they created a group called Ghar Se Ghar, which are Hindi and Urdu words meaning home to home. And then whatever women development work we had to do, we would do in partnership with them. So anything that we would do, we would create a group of people and then we'll seek to work in partnership. Yeah, and that's one way of empowering as well. So empowering is not about you first being powerful and having a power and then you're distributing it to others. It's about empowering is a mutual empowerment that you're accompanying people in their journey. And then in that journey, you are just learning from one another and coexisting.
Thank you very much. I didn't realize the partnership and empowerment was so like closely intertwined, because when we work together, we can build each other up, like not in a weird competitive way, but in a way of like, I want to see you grow. I also want to see you grow. Okay, then let's grow together. And I love like the philosophies about Ubuntu, and like I think the most popular one where I'm from, I think I thought it was global, but now I'm not sure, is when it says no man is an island. And like the other one is like it takes a village to raise a child. These are like very important. Very important. They're all founded from the same principle, which I think is amazing, because we actually, how much can we do without each other, really, truly? So
and it's really great to hear that you don't have to be powerful yourself to empower others. You can build on your confidence while you're making other people feel confident. I feel like that's so important.
That's really good, It's a really good philosophy as well. Because most people think it has to be like a hierarchy type of thing where you're here, I'm here, I'm going to help you get here. It doesn't always have to be like that. We can both be here and go together.
And lift each other
up,
together.
which is quite nice.
So you've mentioned that you've seen like changes as you've grown up in your street and things like that. What changes would you say Luton as a town have undergone as you've lived here?
I think demographic changes are obvious because Luton has received waves of immigrants from different parts of the world. So that's one very obvious change because latest was from Eastern Europe. Second is the universities, that they attract a lot of students, and it also depends. I would say that students also are invited to come actually to sustain the economy in this country and to sustain the universities, otherwise they will crash. So that they bring a lot of changes in that sense. But I think other than that, the overall austerity, I would say, Luton always has had high levels of deprivation, but they are to an extreme measures now, because I also work very closely with Luton Food Bank, and I see the food demand at Luton Food Bank is increasing. And almost every day of the week, we have one of the Luton faith communities serving hot cooked meal. And that just finishes like this, click of a finger. And even in some places of worship, people are knocking doors for support. So I think all those changes, plus the hostility has increased, I would say. I still remember 25 years ago when I arrived in this country, even in Luton, people used to say it's not so much, but for me it was very obvious because I was coming from a third world country, which was overpopulated, overcrowded, and traffic rules didn't exist there. So when I starting to learning to drive here, it almost felt like a class in itself, an etiquette and mannerism. When you stop and wait for somebody to pass, my goodness, I just couldn't believe they are waiting for me to cross the street. You do that in India, people yell at you and do you want to die in front of my car? Go and find somebody else's vehicle. You know, things like that, small things. But I think that is changing now, hostility. The other change, and that hostility could also be seen in terms of how the racial side of hostility is also increasing. Racism, you can say, is on the rise. But the other thing I wanted to say was that I think somewhere along the line we are beginning to lose the sense of being kind. There is much less kindness now, as even I can feel the difference. So I can imagine those elderly white indigenous people, for them this change must be so drastic. Say, for example, Luton has been seeing a lot more fireworks at odd hours, unsocial hours, and it's been a big campaign. A lot of people are upset about it. MPs have taken the matter for the legislative measures in the parliament. So those kinds of people are not being considerate anymore. Parking is one small thing, but all that adds up, and to kind of put blame on immigrants, that look, these people have come and destroyed. And it's not that. I think we are also in a small town, overpopulated town, very congested town. I think we are probably the second top most dense populated town in the country. I don't know which is the first one. I need to do that research, but second. But yeah, so we have a lot more people, and we have much higher percentage of young people in the whole of East of England region. So sometimes those kind of statistics, and they don't have any outlet. Youth provisions have been taken off because the funding cuts, austerity measures, and all that stuff. So all of those things impact on the way society is evolving. And I think we need to be very mindful of how we repair and this kind of damaging reputation of our town.
That's a very deep insight, because just like you said, a lot of people will want to hurry up and say, oh, it's them. It's ever since they've come here, everything's changed. Everyone's mean, everyone's rude. But I think I strongly align with what you've mentioned. It's not necessarily that people have just become less kind and less, there's a word I'm looking for, less considerate to other people, which I think is a really bad thing, because we need to make sure that we do not become what we have come from. Does that make sense? I feel like that sounds very weird, but yeah.
But the other thing also, as I was saying about driving and etiquettes and mannerisms, I also used to admire that how we are so accommodating in this country and in this culture of the others. But I also used to use this analogy that maybe if there are two people who have been starved for a week and have been offered one slice of bread and left in a room, they'll probably fight for the survival. So all the etiquettes and mannerisms are here in this part of the world because we have abundance of resource and everything. So we can afford to be courteous to one another because we know, even if you take that, I still got so much anyway.
Yeah, so it doesn't really mean
that desperation is not there. But now we can see, because we are economically declining as a nation, Brexit has affected a great deal in terms of how economy has been affected. And politicians are never going to be telling the truth about all those things. But all of that is where you see people's behavior changing. All those things. So I always say it's never people, it's the policies that fail people.
Yeah. It's turning into a thing of survival of the fittest, where it's like we have to survive. I mean, I can't just, it's no longer the good old days when we had enough to share and share abundantly. Now it's scarce, so we have to actually fight to get what we want, which is obviously affecting the way people act.
So you've mentioned that you work with a lot of different organizations. So what would you consider your most significant achievement?
I think economic justice is at the heart of all the world's conflicts. It's all about wanting more and more powerful. Nations want to become more powerful at the cost of the other nations which are poor. But then where do you start? Because it's a huge thing. We leave it to economists, to the finance ministers to run the world. And the way they have run the world ever since 1991, it started what they call is globalization, which promoted a lot of free trade. Now, free trade is good if it is both ways, but free trade was more to the advantage of the powerful nations at the cost of the poorer nation, developing nations, as they call it. So I would consider that I thought of that and thinking that how do I make sense of that in the streets of Luton? How do we rally people to become more aware of economic justice issues? And so we created a campaign called Making Luton a Fair Trade Town. So fair trade is about guaranteeing producers and farmers in the third world countries a fair price for their labor. And it has a mark that is put on the products that are sold in supermarkets, but you can buy in other specifically fair trade shops as well, online also. And we have a fair trade foundation in the UK. So I got in touch with them and looked at the criteria, how to make a town a fair trade town. And I started that campaign. So I think it was a long campaign. I think we worked about 7-8 years, but we went into the schools, we did school assemblies, we went to the universities, we went to the businesses, encouraging people to start using fair trade products, at least 2 minimum fair trade products to begin with. It could be tea, sugar, banana, whatever. If you go to Sainsbury's, you will find the fair trade stickers on most bananas.
And like cocoa powder. I've seen quite a few of them.
Yeah, I remember attending like school assemblies like that where they would tell you about the fair trades. And then afterwards, when we would go to grocery stores, I would see
We'd start looking for it.
I was so happy about getting those produce.
Because I feel like I've made quite an impact. Like, look at me, I could have bought the normal one, but I bought this one to help the producers, which honestly made me feel better.
It's a really nice feeling.
Yeah. It makes you feel like you're actually making a difference, especially when you're that young. It's like, I know I've helped someone today. I know for sure.
So we got the status for Luton as a fair trade town, and we were given a Most Outstanding Achievement Award for our campaign. So that's one thing that I'm really happy. And on that day when we were handed over the certificate in the council chamber in the town hall, I wore my wedding suit second time because it was so important for me.
Oh, that's so cute.
And thankfully I could fit in then. Now I can't fit in. But the other thing, a similar issue is about climate change, which is affecting everybody across the world. And climate change, one of my friends has also written a book from Luton called Jeremy Williams. He's written a book called Climate Change is Racist, because we sometimes do not realize that how we actually living in the first world are responsible for most of the climate change, which is putting so many developing nations at stake for their survival. So again, it's a big issue. And when you talk with those who understands environment and the science behind it, you can have debates and discussions, and they are limited to the closed rooms and conference rooms. And again, how do I bring it to the streets? So we created a project called Faith Woodlands Communities Project. And in that, we worked in partnership with the Forestry Commission, who gave us, they didn't give us, but they allowed us to adopt a piece of land in the woodland, which seemed like a nice surrounded by trees, round set of area, whereby we could hold gatherings, community gatherings, picnics, games, and things like that. And this was on A6, right between Luton and Bedford. But as we've talked about working in partnership, we thought, why Luton alone? Why not Bedford as well? So we got in touch with Bedford Council of Faiths, and we did a project in partnership. And we took about 4,000 people in 3 years. Coach loads would go, and it was funded, so that helped us a great deal. So we take coach loads of people, particularly they call it hard to reach people, those they used to call Black and Asian minority BAME people, which now are called as people of global majority heritage. So we took loads of people. We held religious festivals, cultural festivals, Jewish festivals, Baha'i, what they call is Nowruz festival, New Year celebrations, all kinds of things we have done, den building with scout groups and another thing. So then we thought, okay, we have created this as an awareness, but what are we going to take back home from this? Then we said, as a legacy of that project, we want to encourage friends groups in different areas, in different streets. So we have at the moment about 7 groups, and we encourage them to adopt small derelict pieces of land, which are used for antisocial activities, to adopt them and build peace gardens in those. And how to build peace gardens in those? Again, not do it all by yourself. Get in touch with the schools, get children involved to do some artwork, wooden poles, rubbish wood thrown here and there, pick that up, paint it, do some artwork, put that in the peace gardens. Stonework, some artists can come and do whatever. So I'll just give you an example that there are a lot of storytelling activities that are happening in Hightown Peace Garden. In one peace garden, there's Qigong that takes place when the weather allows. But yes, so that's the kind of another achievement that I'm very proud of. And it's kind of ongoing. It's still carrying on more and more.
That's quite nice. I like the idea of using desolate places that would be used for antisocial activities, and then turning them into like these new hubs where people can talk. Okay, the next question is, what are your views on like the ongoing public debates about social cohesion and immigration?
I think it's a big debate, and it's politicized now because elections are being fought based on that particular issue. So I'm not going to be kind of highlighting what the salient features of those debates are and whether I'm for it or against it. But I would simply say that immigrants are real human beings. And in this part of the world, we have always talked about and boasted that we respect the dignity of each and every human beings. They are real people. Let's not demonize them by talking the way as though they are some objects that we are talking and discussing about. Second thing is that I am very angry about is that the politicians and the media is not projecting the truth about immigration in this country, right from NHS to sustaining our universities to IT, hospitality industry sector, our farmlands. All of this will collapse if the immigrants were not there. If everybody heard, I sometimes feel how I wish I could mobilize people just for 1 month. All those people whom are told, go back wherever you have come from. Let's go back wherever we have come from.
Let's actually
and
go.
Let's see how the life feels like. For 1 month, the country won't be able to survive. So in my eyes, I would simply want to say, because otherwise you could just carry on, go on and on this particular topic. I would simply want to say that immigrants deserve recognition and not scapegoating. Because there are real problems. Let's tackle those real problems. Sit down with our members of the parliament, discuss policies, rather than wasting our time to discuss on immigrants. They are not the reason for all the problems that the nation is encountering. Whereas at the moment, every problem in the country is being pinned on. It's because of immigrants. And that's not true.
Ultimately, it's people seeking a better life that come to more developed countries. Like, that's why my family came here. And like things like ageism in other countries, you know, we have to help those other countries and develop that. And that's the only way we'll be able to tackle this immigration issue. Which I wouldn't say should really be considered an issue. Because, you know, so many trades like doctors and like especially medical personnel come from those developing countries.
I think it's very important to understand that bit as well. It's, as human beings, it is literally, I think it is part of our nature to always look for more and look for better. That's why we're human beings. We're still being. We're still trying to be better. So the fact that people have moved from where they were, which was not the best place for them to be and thrive and live properly, to where they are now, where they are contributing, most of us are contributing really well to society, to your society. It should not be, we should not be viewed as aliens or people who are taking advantage of you or anything of the sort. Because as you said, as you've mentioned, we are human beings. And there is no point in demonizing us. It doesn't make any sense at all. But thank you so much for that lovely answer. If listeners could take away one message from you and your story today, what would you want that message to be?
It's always hard to say that in a small, short way. But I think I often feel that there's a lot of hopelessness and despair at the moment. Everybody is upset about something. Everybody's angry about something. Everybody's looking for change. I can't remember exact phrasing of this, that we are the hope that we have been waiting for. I think I just want to give that message to everybody, that we just cannot afford to be spectators and commentators and analysts of what is wrong with the world. We got to be doing something about it as well. So we need to step out, no matter how small or significant that step is, but we need to take steps towards creating a better world that we want to see. So that's one thing. The other is that we are talking about the darkness. A lot of darkness is there with the war, with the poverty, with the hunger, disease. We have just come out of the pandemic. So I usually use that phrase at the name of my organization, Grassroots. And at the bottom it says, it is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. Because we invest far more our energy in cursing the darkness.
Instead of changing it actively.
Wow,
so it's about lighting a candle.
Amazing. So finally, to close off the show, if our listeners want to learn more about what you do or contact you, where can they do that?
Sure. If you Google Grassroots Luton, it should come up with our website. Otherwise, it's www.grassrootsluton.org. And likewise, Near Neighbours program, if you just Google Near Neighbours, it will come up with the website. It's a national initiative, and Luton is one of the hub. And Luton Council of Faiths is very well known. It's a very active Facebook page. So if you just Google Luton Faiths, and you will link up with the Luton Council of Faiths.
Okay, amazing. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks so much for answering our questions.
Pleasure.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We have been Forever,
Manur,
and our guest Johnny. Thank you so much for having us. We will catch you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.